Hello everyone and welcome to this new video. Today we are going to start the first of a series of videos in which we are going to cover one of the most important aspects of English grammar, tenses. I'm going to start with the most basic and the most commonly used one, which is the present simple. We will cover the 3 points or the 3 questions that you should know whenever you want to master a certain tense. The 3 questions or the 3 points simply are: when do we use the tense? How do we use the tense? And what are the time expressions that often accompany the tense? I will repeat them again. When do we use the tense? How do we use the tense? And what are the time expressions that often accompany the tense? I will explain each one of the points. So for when do we use the tense means what are the situations, what is the main use of a certain tense. For example, the present simple. Why do we use the present simple? Why do we conjugate a verb in the present simple? What are the cases, the situations in which I should use the present simple when I'm speaking? The second one, which is how do we use the tense, means what is the form that the verb takes when we are using that specific tense. For example, if I'm using the verb to be in the present simple, what is the form that this verb will take in the present simple as opposed to the form that it will take in the past simple? I hope this point is clear. It's simply a point of conjugation. How do we conjugate a certain verb in a certain tense? The last point that I will cover in this video is what are the common expressions, the common time expressions that we use when we are using a certain tense. And this is a very important point because the time expressions often go hand in hand with the use of the tense, right? So that's something that we will see later on. So without further ado, let's go into the first slide. In this video, I will try to involve you as much as possible. How am I going to do that? Instead of giving you ready-made information, I will try to give you some time to guess the answer before I give it to you. For example, in this first slide, I have 5 uses of different tenses, and what I want you to do is to read them. You can pause the video if you want. Read them carefully and tell me which one of these uses belong to the present simple. I will read for you the uses. We use the present simple, or do we use the present simple to talk about an action that started in the past and is still happening right now? An action that is happening right now as we speak? To describe facts, whether they are scientific facts or personal facts? To talk about future plans or future arrangements? Or finally, to describe habits and routines. So in your opinion, which of these uses apply to the present simple? Again, take your time. I will not reveal the answer right now, but I will reveal it gradually as we look into the next slides. In the next slide, we have the first use of the present simple. Again, I want you to read them carefully and tell me what is the use that these 3 sentences express. All 3 sentences use the present simple, by the way. I will read for you the sentences again. Water boils at 100 degrees. The Earth orbits. Orbits means it goes around. Earth orbits the sun. Plants produce oxygen. Plants produce oxygen. In your opinion, what is the use here? First, let us try to find where is the verb. So, the verbs are boils, orbits, produce. In your opinion, what is the use that the 3 sentences express? The use that the 3 sentences express is general or scientific facts. All the 3 sentences, all of these are scientific facts that are always true. So that's the first use of the present simple. What I want you to do now is to try to think about other scientific facts that you know. Next slide. We have again 4 sentences, all of which express one single use of the present simple. I want you to read them, find the verbs, and then try to guess what is the use. I will reveal it right now. So the sentences are: Kate loves chocolate. I prefer coffee over tea. He doesn't like blue collar, and they are good friends. Let's reveal the verbs. We have loves, prefer, doesn't like, and finally are. What are these uses? For example, if I say Kate loves chocolate, is that a scientific fact? Is that something that is always true, like that the Earth orbits the Sun? Of course not. That's something that is only true about Kate. The same goes for sentence number 2. I prefer coffee over tea. Maybe for you, that's not true. Maybe for you, you prefer milk, you prefer chocolate, you prefer juice, etc. So this is what we call personal facts. So these are things that are only true about specific people. So what I want you to do again is to try and think about some personal facts about you and try and share them with us in the chat. The next use. Again, we have 4 sentences. I want you to read them, find the verb, find the use. I will read them for you. I wake up at 8. I wake up at 6 p.m. I wake up at 6 a.m. every morning. She goes to the gym 3 times a week. They always have dinner at 7 p.m. And finally, he reads a book before bedtime every night. The verbs, of course, are wake up, goes, have, and reads. And the use that these sentences express, if you have noticed, these are actions that are repeated. And this is what we call in English routines or habits. Routines or habits. So that's the third use that we have talked about today. What I want you again to do is to think about some routines, some habits that you have, and try to share them with us in the comment section of this video. I will move to the fourth and the last use of the present simple. The train departs at 9 a.m. tomorrow. The conference starts next week. My flight leaves on Friday afternoon. And finally, our meeting with the client begins at 2 p.m. on Monday. The first thing again that we will do is to try to find the verbs. These are the verbs: departs, starts, leaves, begins. The use of these, if you have noticed, we are using the present, but all the sentences are taking place in the future. We have tomorrow, we have next week, we have Friday afternoon, and finally on Monday, meaning next Monday. This is actually what we call in English future scheduled actions. Future scheduled action. What we mean by scheduled is that they are already planned. When we have a train, the train's departure is already planned. When we have a meeting with a client, that's something that is already planned. If we have a flight, of course, that's already planned. So all of these actions, though they happen in the future, since they are scheduled, and please pay attention with this point, they are scheduled. We have a plan to do them. We can use the present simple. So that was the fourth use of the present simple. So we are going to move to the next activity, in which I will try to see if you understood so well the uses of the present simple, especially the first 3 ones. In this activity, I have for you a few sentences, and then I have for you 3 uses on the top of the screen. What you need to do is to read each one of these sentences carefully and try to tell me what use does it express. Let me very quickly remind you of the uses of the present simple. We said we use the present simple to talk about scientific facts, personal habits or routines, and finally, future planned or scheduled actions. You can pause the video and try to solve the exercise, but for now I will solve just a couple and then I will reveal the full answer of the question. My favorite color is blue. Personally, I love blue. Maybe you like red. Maybe someone else likes yellow. I think that you guessed the answer. This is a personal fact. Number 1 is a personal fact. Sentence number 2. She goes for a run in the park every morning. The keyword that we have here, I think you have guessed, is every morning. Every morning suggests that the action in question, which is running, is something that happens regularly, is something that happens repeatedly. This is what we call in English, I think you have guessed it, routine or habit. Let's take another one randomly and let's maybe read sentence E. The moon orbits the earth. The moon orbits the earth. So, of course, this is something that is always true. This is something that we scientifically know and can prove, and this is a scientific fact. So, now let me reveal the full answer of this question. You can pause the video, Try to check if you got everything correct. Maybe try to check if there is some mistake here or something that you don't understand. For now, I'm going to move to the next point, which is form. So how do we conjugate the verb to be in different forms? So if I have a verb, I want to conjugate it in the present simple. How do I do that? I think this is something that you have noticed through the sentences that we have been analyzing. So let's go directly into the first slide. So for the form, for every tense, you should know how to use the verb in three formats. The first one is the affirmative, the second one is the negative, and the third one is the interrogative. We are going to start with the verb to be. So the verb to be, very simply, I think most of you know it, is, or are, depending on the pronoun that you have. For example, I am a teacher, you are a learner, she is a doctor, he is a lawyer, for example, he is from Canada. So this is the verb to be in the affirmative. If we want to use the negative, something that is not true, we can simply add not after the verb to be. I am not a lawyer, she is not very brilliant, they are not lazy. So these are just examples. And of course, if I want to ask about someone, I use the interrogative form, which is question. So I can say, are you from here? Is she your wife? Are they your friend? So this is how we ask, simply by inverting the subject and the verb to be. So we start with the verb to be, and then we have the verb. You have the forms on the screen. Now, for any other verb other than the verb to be, that the rule is a little bit different. So for any other verb, in the affirmative form, actually, the verb stays the same. Let's take the verb read, for example. I will say I read, you read. But when I reach he and she and it, things change. I need to add an S. So I should say he reads, she reads, all right, it reads. I don't know what is this it that reads, but it reads. It's just a part of the conjugation of the verb. So it reads, right? We read, you read, and they read. So notice that for the rest of the verbs, other than the verb to be, we don't change the verb except with he and she and it, where we add an S at the end of the verb. For the negative, we add don't or doesn't being added with he, she, it. Notice that doesn't has the S that we used before with the verb. So when we add doesn't, it takes the S from the verb and we give it to the auxiliary do. So it becomes doesn't. So I can say, for example, I don't read, you don't read, he, she, and it doesn't read, we don't read, you don't read, and finally, they don't read. So the verb, so we simply add don't with all the pronouns except for he and she and it, where we add doesn't, and this goes hand in hand with the first rule where we add an S. So it's just that the S, instead of adding it to the verb, we add it to the auxiliary do. Finally, if we want to ask a question, we should still call for the help of the verb to do. So we say, do you like coffee? Do I like coffee? But for he and she and it again, we should add an S. So we say, does he like coffee? Does she like coffee? Or does it like coffee? So these are examples that I have for you on the screen. I love football, but he likes coffee. Notice the S that we added at the end of the verb in the affirmative. For the negative, I don't love football. We added don't because we have I. But for he doesn't like coffee. And here I'm using the same example so that you can see how it changes. Finally, do you love football? Do you? So do you love football? We add do before the subject. But if we have he, she, or it, we add does. Does he like coffee? Does she like the color blue? Etc. There is a special case in English. For the form, we said that we add s with he, she, and it. But there is a special case where we can add es. So this goes with verbs that end with ch, sh, s, o, x, or z. So again, for verbs that end with ch, sh, s, o, x, or z, the rule still applies. We add an s with he, she, and it. Let's take the verb watch. I watch TV every night. You watch TV every night. He watches. We simply added S. But the only difference is that for the writing, we should add ES. Alright? And this is very clear or becomes clearer when we look at the verb miss. I miss. You miss. He misses. If we simply add S, we will have a verb that has 3 consecutive S's, and that doesn't look very normal in English. So that's why we add ES for verbs that end in CH, SH, S, O, X, or Z. So remember these verbs. These are examples on the screen. Another rule that you should pay attention with, again with he, she, and it. These 3 pronouns are very troublesome in the present simple. I have the verb play. Can you try to tell me how do we write the verb play in with he, she, and it in the present? Again, I will say it and you tell me how do we write it. I play, you play, he plays. How do we write it? Do we add an S at the end of the word, or is there a special rule? What about the verb cry? I cry, you cry, he cries. We simply add an S at the end. That's actually just in pronunciation, but for writing, things are quite different. For play, say, and stay, we add an S, like a normal verb, like read, like write, like eat. But for the verbs cry, study, and try, things, as you have noticed, changed a little bit. We removed the Y and we added an I instead. Why is that? I will give you some time to guess. You can pause the video, try to tell me why for play we added S, but for cry we added IES. I will proceed to reveal the answer. The trick here actually lies in the letter that comes before the Y. So we have here 2 rules. The first rule says that if you have a vowel before the Y, like A, O, U, E, etc., plus Y, with he, she, it, we don't remove anything, we simply add an S. Play, plays, Y, S at the end. But if the verb ends in Y, and that Y is preceded by a consonant, what are consonants? Consonants are sounds like R, T, S, D, right? Any other letter than vowels. What happens is that we should remove the Y, and then we add IES instead. So again, cry becomes cries, but at the end it has IES instead of YS. Remember this rule again. Alright, right now this is it for the use of the present simple. I will simply remind of it. So for the present simple, we said that we use the present simple for 3 main uses, which are scientific facts, personal facts, habits, or routines. There is a 4th use, which is for future actions that are planned or scheduled. But I want you to focus just on these 3. For the conjugation, I think it's very easy. For the verb to be, it's is, are. For other verbs, the verb doesn't change except for he, she, it, where we add are. I drink, you drink, but he drinks, she drinks, it drinks, and then the verb becomes normal again. We drink, they drink, and you drink. I will illustrate the use of the present simple by these 5 verbs: eat, watch, go, and play, and cry. So we have I eat, you eat, he eats, she eats, etc. So, and finally, you eat, we eat, they eat. For watch, we said for verbs that end in CH, SH, S, O, X, or Z, we should add an ES in the end with he, she, and it. The same applies for verbs that end in O, like go. Finally, for verbs that end in Y, we should be careful what is the letter that precedes the Y. Is it a vowel, in which case we can simply add an S? Or if it is a consonant, we should add IES. So in this first exercise, I have for you 5 sentences, and there are some mistakes in these sentences. What I wanted to do is to correct them for me. You can pause the video and try to do the exercise for me. I will go directly into correcting the exercise. So for the first one, I reads, we cannot say I reads because S we added simply with he, she, and it. The same goes for sentence number 2. We have Y. We have a verb that ends in Y, and the Y is preceded by a consonant rather than a vowel. So we shouldn't simply add an S, but rather we should add IES. Sentence number 3, they watches, the same mistake as number 1. We cannot add s or es with they. The cat catches mice in the garden. Here it is correct because the cat's pronoun is it. But the verb catch ends in ch. So here we said that for he, she, it, we should add es rather than simply s. And finally, he writes, he is a pronoun with which we add s in the present simple. So this is the correct version of the exercise. In the last exercise, we have a series of sentences in which we have verbs between brackets that you should put in the present simple using the right form. So I will give you some time. You can pause the video, do the exercise for me. I will go directly and show the exercise in 3, 2, 1. So this is the solution of the exercise. Now what I want you to do to check whether you understood the present simple fully is to go to the comment section, write for me 4 sentences. Each one of the 4 sentences should portray one of the 4 uses that we have seen of the present simple. You can use varied forms of the verb, for example, verbs that end in ch, verbs that end in o, verbs that end in y preceded by consonant or vowel, so that you too can check your understanding of the lesson. That was it for the first video of this series about tenses. Don't forget to like the video if you found it useful. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss the next videos in the series. And finally, don't forget to share this video with your friend that you think will benefit from this video. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.